Hello everyone and welcome. I PlayDMPD, I'm your host for this tutorial. I'm going to show you something that I found while playing around with Minecraft settings. So I'm recording now at, I think it's 30 frames per second. We can check. Okay, not quite. Getting on for 30 frames per second, but it's a bit lower. But as you can see, the world is loading in quite nicely. And this is an amplified world because I wanted to amplify the effect. So you can see that the world is loading in. It's working quite nicely. Now I'm going to change one setting in my Minecraft settings and we'll see how they compare. I want you to tell me whether you think there's a big difference. Okay, we're back. I've made my change. Let me know if you see any changes in the way the world is being rendered. One thing we can see, my frame rate is now 30 frames per second, and that is a clue. That is indeed a clue. But there seems to be large portions of the world that really aren't loading. I mean, I am exploring new terrain right now, but I was exploring new terrain before as well. So why is it that the world isn't loading in? Why is that? Well, I have a theory that the way the render code has changed, it prioritizes the generation of new frames over loading the world. In the old system, it kind of prioritized loading the world over frame rate because you'd notice a big frame drop when you were loading the world. So, for example, if you come out of the Nether, or go into the Nether, or come back out of the end, then you would notice a small frame drop. Once it had loaded the world, then everything was fine again. But now, it just stays high all the time. So if I don't record, I don't know what my frame rate will be. Somewhere around 120 frames per second. I've got a Phenom 965 processor, so it's decent. It's not hot stuff by today's standards, but it's really rather decent for playing Minecraft at least. But it is struggling to load this world at this frame rate, and that's because we're creating a lot of frames. But even though I'm recording at 30 frames per second, and a lot of frames I think are being generated that are not actually being used by the recording software. They're just being thrown away. So it's generating a lot of useless frames. Oh, look at that, Mega Tiger. It's generating a lot of frames that aren't visible to the user at all. So why render them? Just wasting CPU time. So my advice is turn your frame rate down a bit. Let's see what happens if we do that. Okay, I've got my frame rate now on 60 frames per second. As we are recording, it's still just showing 30. World loading still not super great right now. But if we take it all the way down to... Whoa! If we take it all the way down to 40 or 30, we should see some nice changes. So let's do that now, not that. That's what we need. I'll go 40 frames per second. Hopefully we can render all the frames the video is capturing. 29, 30, yeah, that's not bad. And hopefully the world will keep rendering too. Beautiful. Okay, this is not the best area to try it because Swampland doesn't have as much data. But here's a nice extreme, terrain gen situation. And that's actually caused me to run out of memory before, as I mentioned, I think. Let's see how much we're using now. Oh, really? Only, nothing. Okay, well, don't know what happened there. I think I was just under too much terrain for too long. Big lag spike. Anyway, so this is something that I've noticed also in other people's videos, so that they're terrain is not generating properly or the world is not loading very nicely. Obviously under recording this situation is even worse, so if you want to record Minecraft, I suggest you turn your frame rate down. 40 frames per second is plenty. As you can see, I'm generating fairly nice and smooth video with my creaky old processor. So a lot of people have better processors now than this one, and you can buy for the same price as I bought this one a couple of years ago a very nice processor from Intel or from AMD. No bias here. Or you could buy a Qualcomm processor, but I don't know how good that would be for Minecraft. Anyway, my point is, turn your frame rate down, should help your world loading. That's all I wanted to say really for this video. I hope it hasn't gone too long. And whoa, that's nice. I like this terrain. Let's wait for it to load in. Come on, come on. That's the way. Yeah, that's it. Come on. Good boy. If I press escape, it should load faster. A little bit? Maybe. Very cool terrain gen in this new amplified worlds. Anyway, so when you're playing normally, maybe set your frame rate to 70 or 80, or perhaps 90. I tend to play with 90, because I find that even at 60 it doesn't drop the right frames, so it'll give a stuttering view around, and I don't like that. So I like a nice smooth visual experience. So I set mine to 90. That means that it'll pretty much just render any frame that I'm trying to look at with my monitor's refresh rate. So that works out well for me. Experiment a little with your own settings. Again, I recommend don't put it on unlimited, because that's just going to put all your CPU time into rendering frames rather than loading up the world. And who wants to do that, right? Nobody needs to render 500 frames per second. Except for fun, I guess. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. This has been Palladium PD. I hope you have a good day, and I'm signing out.